Greetings to all, friends. So, Cosmoenergetics once again. Diving into the world of working with energies, let's start from the very beginning. The traditional and classical cosmoenergetics that was indeed taught by Petrov and in fact transmitted on, including by me in my time, is something we have moved away from. The thing is, there are certain interactions with those forces that I find difficult to manage, and these interactions can be quite complex and multifaceted. It's hard to say that it is exactly, as described in the manuals and treatises, in the classical sense of what we know about cosmoenergetics, because the reality often presents itself in a much more nuanced and intricate manner, and sometimes even contradictory, which makes it even more challenging to manage. For me personally, yes, I couldn't handle it. There were moments when I would refuse, then I would start working with it again, and then I would refuse once more. So, there were these kinds of struggles. At that time, I was still studying Tibetan Buddhism a lot and exploring other systems of knowledge transmission in Vajrayana. Initiations are always indeed a very serious process, meaning it is a connection with a certain force that inevitably begins to influence you. That is, it doesn't matter whether you work with this power or not. If you have connected with it, that is a connection. Interaction, indeed, certainly generates a certain kind of responsibility from you. But let's say that power is always about two ends. Let's say that either you are aware of it and, understanding it, work in some kind of symbiosis, where the power naturally receives what it needs from you, and you receive what you need from the power in a way that naturally and harmoniously. Or, let's put it this way, with clumsy management of power, yes, indeed, the force will still get what it needs from you. But you might not only fail to get what you need, but you could also completely break down. This can be compared, I don't know, to a chainsaw. Here it is, the beautiful chainsaw, and you can take it and build a house, a log cabin. But if you don't really know how the oil works, where to pour it, where the gas goes, how to tighten the chain, and just in general, and understand the importance of each step and the consequences of not following the instructions properly, after some time, the chain tension might have loosened over time, and it could get stuck or something else could happen. Anything can occur with a chainsaw, you see. The instructions clearly state that when you take it in your hands, you need to be more careful, for example. And here it is approximately the same. That is, if you understand the power. How to work with it, what it is, and how to interact with it. Duty, it is definitely there to help you. It's absolutely one thing if you are building a house. And I don't know if you are friends with a saw or with a knife. It's a different matter when you have a chainsaw. It goes faster. It's more interesting, just like that. It's one thing to have Reiki, for example, or to have some other personal practice. I see a lot of that now, with every shaman claiming to be one, and then there's someone who says, I do it myself, and it seems impressive. But it's a completely different matter if you connect with a serious essence, whether it's from Tibetan Buddhism, various deities, or some Vajrayana teachings, or simply entering a school that truly has its own egregore, its own spirit helpers, and its own potentials. In other words, this is already a serious matter. You have connected to the power, and this power begins to test you. Where are your vulnerable spots? What potential are you ready to carry, and what can actually pass through you? That is why I say that our cosmoenergetics is not classical. Yes, the names are the same. Yes, the energies, let's say, perform the same tasks functionally. But the source is different, and the sensations while working with them are not just softer. Indeed, they are much softer. They are completely different in their essence. That is, we are working in a different key, with slightly different forces. And what is the beauty of cosmoenergetics work in general? I will now delve deeper into the ideology, that is, what it is about and why, in greater detail. Indeed, I believe that in every information system, and a person is primarily an information system, there are input and output channels. That is, essentially, information comes to you and information goes out from you. There are several input channels and several output channels. In fact, there aren't a huge number of them. They, especially those that are fundamental, are well known. And there is a clear and specific understanding of what kind of energy should be in terms of its spectrum and, so to speak, volume, as well as its potential, and what kind of energy should indeed actually be produced as a result. If we see that it is indeed the case, well, it seems easier and faster for a person, and in my opinion, safety is very important in all these matters. It is very crucial to have a sense of belonging to a certain teaching, to fully understand the forces you are working with, and to know exactly what to expect from them, or they will illuminate your dysfunctions and problems, and where they will stop, to avoid breaking you. It is indeed absolutely crucial to be aware of these aspects. At one point, I came into contact with forces that could truly destroy me. And it's very good that, I don't know, my spirit or something had enough options, so to speak, for restructuring, to stay alive in principle, and to preserve a certain potential, to elaborate on the options and potential that were available to me during this critical time, which allowed for a successful restructuring. In any case, any power tests a person, coming in and pressing down on them naturally. And under this load, under this pressure, vulnerabilities are revealed, showing the areas where a person has been absent with their attention or has, for some ideological reasons, created certain patches, constructs, or imperfections that disrupt the flow of energy in the normal movement, consequently leading to psychological distortions and disruptions in the physiological body. When we see that a person can work through and address, remove, or illuminate these distortions and violations in various ways through various energetic frequencies in self-work, the person changes and ultimately transforms. A person changes within themselves, changes deeply in their inner intentions, in their qualities, and in their behavior. And I believe that this is the real work on oneself. This is truly, indeed, truly deep inner processing. This is what provides the opportunity for growth and development, allowing for transformation, changing oneself from an imperfect version to an improved version of oneself. Not through some psychoanalysis, which we also consider valid if it works. It can indeed be used. And through inner work, initiations passed down from the master, yes, indeed, the energies that are simply given. Believe me, friends, there are things that you can acquire from somewhere, and there are things that you simply cannot take just like that. And this needs to be learned. It must be demonstrated, initiated, and taught how to work with it. It's the same as one person driving a car while another sits in a cafe and says, I can move just the same way, and I don't need a car. Well, try moving exactly like that. Do you need a car? Yes, you do. A car is power. Yes, we compared power to a chainsaw. We can compare it to a car, or, say, to an airplane. But I can do it myself without a plane, right? Try it yourself. It won't work without a plane. Someone must provide the plane, teach how to use it. Here, take the ticket, sit down right here. Now you can move across the planet Earth at a speed of 1,000 kilometers per hour. Without an airplane. Despite all this confidence, despite all the willpower, it was indeed very difficult, no matter how strongly a person believes that he can really do it. The world of internal energy information multidimensional systems opens up in the vast and intricate and complex and fascinating and deeply intricate systems when you begin to look inside your head. Not only do you simply look inside your head, but there are also images there. This is, of course, indeed very cool, but there are things called load-bearing elements. For example, in a building, there are columns. Load-bearing columns. The ceilings, walls, and other structures are already resting on these columns. Everything relies on them. In the world of the mind, yes, we can abstractly place the top at the top and the bottom at the bottom. But if we are in space and there is no up or down, then it is unclear where is up and where is down. If we have, let's say, for instance, excellent white light and black light, which is not good, then as long as the light shines brightly enough, we can see clearly that this particular light is indeed very good. But this light can change its position, moving from top to bottom or becoming a different shade. It could go from a golden color to a greenish one, or some murky shade, or even a burgundy, yes, or some other color. So, it's not entirely clear, like indeed it appeared white at first glance, but now I look at it more closely and it's no longer purely white anymore, right, but has a tint of color instead, which seems as though this tint has also shifted slightly over time. How can one actually obtain the essence in such an abstract world when everything is so uncertain? And it all depends on what specific input data comes into this mysterious box. In other words, we understand that there are moods and emotions. Today, the ability to concentrate is very good, but tomorrow, I don't know. Maybe the moon is in a different phase, or perhaps something else has influenced it, and the ability to concentrate is no longer the same. Yes, maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or maybe you ate something that didn't agree with you, or perhaps something else is happening, someone wrote you something unpleasant or did something, or maybe something else went wrong. All of this affects. Today, this light was white, but after interactions, people live differently, everything changes. You look inside, and there is no longer that light, or it is different. Or something else, that is, where the foundation is, where the support is, where the bearing is. I suggested focusing more closely on the central channel, but subsequently we found that this same central channel can indeed be activated in a variety of different spectra, much like how a string can produce certain notes, depending on its specific vibration and frequency resonating within it. Depending upon this phenomenon occurring, there will then be an appropriate corresponding shift. That is, the concentration is not on the channel itself. It is evident that you definitely need to maintain attention and learn to work with this mechanism, but for the psyche, the support does not go up and down nor inward like in a tube, but rather in the vibration that this tube specifically carries. That is, there are frequencies that provide a very specific resonance and very specific programs. For example, a set of energy within the aura. This is the only main responsibility of this vibration, this frequency, and by learning and focusing on what it provides, you see that this set always goes through the same program, through the same command. You notice that a certain pillar appears, a certain support. This program, it looks like this, Here it is. Another program looks different. The third one is the third. In the end, you reveal yourself against the backdrop of these constant fluctuations, against the backdrop of these constant carriers. Yes, you see everything else. That is the beauty of it. In that, you are learning a kind of alphabet through this cosmoenergetics. It doesn't matter what kind of cosmoenergetics, whether it's mine or someone else's, or through what forces it operates. The essence is that if you train your psyche to interact with various different types of vibrations, these vibrations will essentially become like carriers, like letters from an alphabet, from which you then begin to weave words, sentences, and conceptual frameworks, ultimately forming a large amount of information that your psyche can reproduce and communicate with the universe through these frequencies. Here lies the beauty of cosmoenergetics. Here lies its benefit. Here lies its meaning and significance and importance. Here is why it exists. And later, once you have realized a certain level, reached another level, uncovered some sublevels, and understood the multidimensionality of where we are. By exploring various dimensions and levels, you will be able to comprehend which forces you are currently interacting with and what to do in order to remain healthy, happy, and a good person, and gaining a deeper understanding of the complexities involved in the interactions with these forces and the steps required to maintain a balanced and fulfilling life while ensuring that you remain a positive influence on those around you. Come to our classes, friends, join us for retreats. I am glad to see all of you, and I am happy that I am interesting to you. Light and love.